All right, everyone. That was fun. That's college football with two powerhouses from competing conferences going at it. This is what we need to see more often. The ACC versus the SEC at Kyle Field, Texas A&M, Clemson, and the Tigers pull it out. Or maybe the Tigers more descriptively, they hang on for the victory. The Tigers hang on for the victory at Texas A&M. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. If you are coming across our product for the first time, we deliver college football analysis, discussion, and debate like nobody else. We bring on the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the industry. Then you get analysis from me as well. And we get the live chat and the call in from you. So we take your suggestions, we take your comments and questions all the time here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let's talk Texas A&M and Clemson. This was a game that I thought, because of A&M's SEC pedigree, because of the talent on the field, the speed for the Aggies, and the home field advantage, that they would play well for 2 to 3 quarters, that it would be something close to what it was at that point. 14-6, 21-13, something in that range. It would be a 1-2 score game, and then Clemson would turn on the Jets in the fourth quarter and win, let's say, 31-14, something in that range. I believed Clemson was going to win this game by 15 to 20 points, something in that range. Okay, Clemson continued to try to pull away. They led it 14-3. They stretched it to 21-6. They stretched it to 28-13. And every time against that vaunted Clemson defense, that vaunted Clemson defensive line that we saw show up a number of times and make big plays in the backfield and actually make the critical plays that ended the game and ended some drives in the fourth quarter that would have otherwise tipped the scales in the Aggies' favor. So they did show up. But considering Clemson's prowess as a defense, especially a defensive front, I thought Texas A&M played them very, very well. And it was just the play of the wide receiver there at the pylon, stretching for the game winner or the game tire, even before they did on the final drive, what we expected to be the final drive or the final gasp or effort for Texas A&M. That is just not a smart play. This is the reason why. Okay. You catch the ball in the middle of the field. You've got the first down. You're racing toward the sideline. You're racing toward the end zone. If there was 5 seconds left in the game, that would be one thing. There's 2 minutes left in the game. So if anything, you want to give Clemson the ball with as little time as possible. Number one. Number two, your chances of fumbling the ball out of the end zone, as was the case there, is fairly high. We see it happen pretty frequently. You're playing an elite athlete who's coming after you, trying to dislodge the ball, and that's exactly what happened, as opposed to get knocked out of bounds at the 1 yard line or the half-yard line and still having to score, yes, but having about a 95% chance of scoring with 4 downs. So can't expect these kids to be thinking in the moment all the time at the split second, but that's a risky play that we see way too many times. And if the kid reaches out and hits the pylon with a football and hangs onto it, all credit to him for scoring what could be the game-tying touchdown, but it's too risky. Too risky. It's wet. You've got an elite athlete who's diving with you and trying to dislodge the ball, and there's 2 minutes left on the clock, and you're going to have a first down at the half-yard line. It doesn't make any sense. Also, even when it's dry, if it's a dry playing surface and a dry football, you see guys reach, they have the ball, and then they hit the ground and they lose the football. So we see it all the time. They lose the football before they're down. So it's not a smart play to make. We give Texas A&M all the credit. They will show up in my top 25 tomorrow because they've got a win of little note against Northwestern State, but they played the number 2 team in the country, and they played them to the hilt, and they played them fairly even. I still think Clemson played a better game. If we didn't know these two teams, if we didn't know their rankings and didn't know the decals on the helmets and how good they were supposed to be, we just saw two teams out there playing, I think we would still look at Clemson and say they're a little bit better team. But they looked rather equal tonight. And of course, Texas A&M had the severe home field advantage. So still a good win for Clemson, defeating a quality team, a team that you would expect to win at least 7 or 8 games this year. If they perform like that, if they can take that performance on the road or even duplicate that performance at home, then look out. LSU, Auburn, Mississippi State, and the like. We won't mention Alabama in particular, but LSU, Auburn, Mississippi State, watch out. If that's the Texas A&M team you get and the Kellen Mond and the wide receiver play you get out of that team, wow. All right, let's see what you guys have. And remember, the phone lines are open at 860-325-3687. 860-325-3687. So I'll take some phone calls. I want to get revved up for Michigan State and Arizona State. Want to take in that game, and I'm going to be taking some notes, reviewing my game notes, what I saw today, because I'm going to deliver some recaps of some games and my thoughts about what was important this weekend. So those are going to come out late tonight and early tomorrow on my recaps on college football. All right. 860-325-3687. All right. How about the Aggies? Drake on the line with us. Also, Wes Anthony. Wow, what a game. Yes, it was. And the refs screwed A&M over. So, Panther Pro 22, I agree to a certain extent that the refs were in a difficult situation. Okay, they are bound to the rule that they can only overturn that on replay if it is without question, without a doubt. And they didn't really have that evidence. I still would have broken the rule and overturned that call, because by logic, just taking a little bit of logic and applying it to the rules and applying it to the situation, he fumbled the ball and it flew to the left, and it appeared to be almost definite that it flew out of bounds before it flew out of the back of the end zone. And I am, as I mentioned on Twitter and responded to a few people on Twitter, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at MarkRogersTV. Very easy to find there, and I will follow you back. So we did conversation about the rule. So there's a certain integrity to the rules in terms of what the end zone represents versus what the playing field represents. And that comes into play regarding punts and kickoffs and fumbles and touchbacks and the ball leaving the playing field. The end zone is different than the playing field. And I would really have to think this through to determine whether it makes any sense, whether if the ball's lost and it goes through the end zone. Let's keep this in mind, that the last person to have possession of the ball is the offensive player. And nobody on the defensive team ever had possession of the football. So let's keep that in mind. Nobody on the defense ever had possession of the football. Well, any other place on the field, that goes back to the offense, because the defense never had possession of the ball. So the ball was never recovered by the defense. So it was last in possession of the offense. The ball left the playing surface and left the playing field. So it goes back to the offense at that place. The end zone can be viewed as a different territory, different set of rules, just like it is with punts and kickoffs. I do somewhat have an issue with that, because I would think that if the defense, obviously, if they dive in the end zone and recover the ball, then it's their ball because they recovered the ball in bounds. But in this circumstance, nobody recovered the ball. The offense had the ball last, so why don't they get to keep the ball at the place in which they fumbled the ball? All right, Panther Pro 22. Yes, A&M should have won. Drake, Bama's schedule is just getting stronger. Yeah, a heck of an effort by Texas A&M right there. They should be giving credit of that performance Now they've got to follow it up. So they not only have to get out there and show that on a one-time occasion that they can play lights out against a premier opponent at home, they've got to take that on the road. They've got to take that performance on the road and not just show that they can play over their heads one time. So it's a great performance by the Aggies and Kellen Mond, but we've never seen Kellen Mond play like this before. It'll be interesting to see if he can keep that up. That kid was stellar. He was throwing the ball in tight spaces, especially that final touchdown, of course, with I believe it was Cleveland Farrell with the shoulder on his shoulder, trying to pull him down. And with a grasp of his jersey, he shook it loose and drilled a dart in there for the game, what would have been the game-tying score. Best game of the day? Yes, it is. It has been the best game of the day. Have we seen another good game today? USC and Stanford right now is 14-0. Penn State has been outplayed for much of the first half, but they've turned it around. They've been the better team in the second half. They have not made the mistakes that Pitt has made. Pat Narduzzi made a really stupid decision when the score was 7-6. He had a 4th and 3 at the Penn State 4, so he still could have gotten a first down, but basically a goal line situation. 4th and 3, 4th and a full 3 yards. And what did he do? He ran a slow developing play off tackle. Quarterback pivots, gives the ball to the running back off tackle. There's a massive humanity, 22 bodies in the middle of the field, and they give it off tackle. It's not 4th and a half yard. It's 4th and 3. So I thought that was a bad play call by Pat Narduzzi in particular, and I haven't seen much of this game, Pitt and Penn State. I prioritized Clemson, Texas A&M since it stayed close. USC Stanford I've got on DVR. A&M got away with holding all game long. Drake, 4th best team in the SEC West. That's, of course, up to opinion at this point. We've got little to go by. LSU's beaten a good Miami team, and I know they look like garbage, but it's still a good, talented Miami team that should be top 15 in the country when all is said and done. Auburn beat a really good Washington team. Closer game, of course. Alabama throttled a decent top 40 Louisville-type team. And then we saw this out of Texas A&M tonight against a number 2 Clemson. NCIS Fanatic 21, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, and maybe Oklahoma, all better than Clemson. I really can't answer that right now. I need to see more football. I'm not going to go by one result in which Clemson struggled on the road. Ohio State has yet to play anyone. Georgia played a really good game at South Carolina. Georgia's been the most impressive, certainly against a good team. And Alabama was dominant against Louisville, who's an okay team. Got COCHONKG. Believe this is the first time you've seen Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Welcome. Welcome. Don't want to screw up your handle name, so I won't touch it. But let us know who you root for and how long you've been watching Mark Rogers TV. But because this is where we discuss and debate college football on a daily basis. So we ask you to subscribe right here, lock it in, certainly go other places and watch and take in other college football content. But we do it like nobody else right here. So we appreciate you joining the live stream. Clemson's overrated. Valdez Mosley. Clemson can care less about the SEC. We talking about best conference right now. It is very difficult to argue anybody is close to the SEC based on the results we've seen thus far. Northwestern took a hit for the Big Ten today. They lost by 2 touchdowns at home to Duke. Penn State's taking care of business against what's probably a marginal Pitt team, so this is not a big deal. Ohio State TCU is going to be rather large next week. Of course, Michigan losing to Notre Dame, and Michigan State's got a hold serve tonight against Arizona State out west, a game that I want to lock in on here very soon. Dwayne Haskins is better than Kelly Bryant. All right. Yeah, until he actually plays a defense. 2 is better than Haskins. Sure. Stupid play by the A&M wide receiver. Great play by Clemson defensive back. Still a horrible call. These Texas A&M wide receivers today, they impressed me like the Washington receivers played. Although for the Washington receivers against Auburn, it was about 4 catches they made. For Texas A&M tonight, it was over and over and over and over and over. It was route running. It was outfighting defensive backs for the football. It was their hands. It was their moves in the open field and their athleticism and leaping for the ball and high pointing the football. It was a number of things out of these Texas A&M wide receivers. Wes Anthony, A&M definitely had a great game plan to get past our pass rush. Got to give Jimbo credit. They should do well the rest of the season. Penn State up 30-6. Now that Northwestern lost to Ohio State is the hottest team in the Power 5. Don't know if that I don't know what that means, Buckeye State Sports, meaning they've got the most consecutive wins, I believe. And what about Samford? Samford, last I saw, was up 23-14. 23-14. So let's go through the games and hear my thoughts. Okay. Oklahoma, UCLA. Kyler Murray looked pretty amazing. Arm talent, dynamic playmaker, didn't make mistakes. He did throw 1 interception. UCLA and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, at least he got his feet wet on the road and performed pretty well, 254 yards passing. Oklahoma's defense and some of the playmakers that they have as freshmen on defense that they just recruited in the last 2 years as redshirt freshmen or sophomores or true freshmen made a lot of plays in that game. Oklahoma has basically made it through its non-conference schedule, dives into the Big 12, and they have been dominant. Georgia Tech loses to South Florida. South Florida, I saw just a little bit of that game. South Florida winning for a 6th time in its last 7 games against the Power 5, will again be a force in the American Conference. We've got Duke at Northwestern. As I mentioned, Duke looked extremely impressive on defense. Northwestern has an issue at quarterback in which Clayton Thorson still is suffering from the ACL and cannot play every play. He splits time with TJ Green, and it's a completely different Northwestern offense with Green on the field. They suffered from that. Still, Duke to go to Northwestern and win by 2 touchdowns, very impressive. They have suffered a couple of serious injuries. We'll know later this week how serious. Daniel Jones, who threw 4 touchdowns today, or actually scored three or four touchdowns today. He's got 7 touchdowns against the Wildcats defense in 2 years. His clavicles hurt. We'll see how he bounces back, what the prognosis is there. Mark Gilbert, the number 1 corner for Duke, out as well, suffering an injury. So Duke a bit hobbled, but they come away with a slight upset in Evanston over Northwestern. Big win for the ACC and Duke. Arizona, Houston. The Wildcats might be the most disappointing team in America through 2 games. Having lost to BYU, a BYU team that lost 9 games and was a complete embarrassment last year, and losing that game, and then coming back after losing at home, going to Houston, a fine program, but still a group of 5, and getting completely annihilated with Khalil Tate running for about 10 or 15 yards. Arizona, this is the disappointment of disappointments in the Power 5 thus far, even surpassing UCLA and Texas at this point for me. Alabama and Oregon win big, inconsequential. Georgia proves that South Carolina is not ready to challenge them. Too physical along both defensive and offensive fronts. The running backs were free to roam and get to the edge. The defensive backfield at South Carolina is not nearly good enough to handle Mecole Hardman and company at Georgia. It was an impressive showing on the road for the Bulldogs to win in dominant fashion after a decently played first half in which they were the better team, but South Carolina hung in it, and it was 17-10 before a bad punt by South Carolina set up Georgia for a field goal to go into half with a momentum and the 2-score lead at 20-10, and then they just took it from there. Jake Bentley, he was under fire. He was playing a really good defense. He didn't get help from his playmakers. Rico Dowdle in particular served up the first interception for the pick six for the touchdown by just dropping the football and deflecting it back to DeAndre Baker. He also dropped a 3rd and 7 pass over the middle on the next drive that would have converted a 3rd down into a 1st down. So Jake Bentley's supporting cast let him down, but he didn't play well. He did not play well in this game either. And I'm starting to wonder about Jake Bentley. I'm going to have to see him play a couple more times against good teams. Rutgers, Ohio State, we got what we would expect there. Dwayne Haskins was almost flawless in this game, 20 of 23. Tate Martell came in and went 10 for 10. The Buckeyes quarterbacks went 30 for 33. That's tough to do in 7-on-7 drills. And they completely annihilated Rutgers and knocked the starting quarterback out of the game, Art Sitkowski. So hopefully he's okay and ready to play next week. Notre Dame was sloppy against Ball State. Just saw the score there at 24-13. Have not seen any highlights. Nebraska, Colorado, up until this Texas A&M Clemson game, probably the play or the game of the day. And Steven Montez, a quarterback for Colorado, threw a beautiful dime to win the ball game to Chanot, the wide receiver, who had a huge day against the Huskers secondary. Nebraska moved the ball. Adrian Martinez, for a true freshman quarterback, had a just fine debut. He got hurt late. The backup quarterback, the walk-on sophomore, Andrew Bunch, came into the game, and he played well. He threw the ball well. He should have converted a 3rd and 16. He threw a seed on the next to last series. It was dropped. He led the Huskers down the field to try to win the ball game, down 33-28. Threw the ball extremely well to put them in a position to get there at the 20-yard line, but then his last 2 or 3 passes of the game, he threw the ball out of bounds and did not give his wide receivers a chance to win the game. So the Huskers go down in Scott Frost's debut in Lincoln, 33-28, and Colorado starts 2-0. Washington wins, and consequential game there. Iowa plays great defense against Kyle Kempt and David Montgomery, holding the Cyclones to 3 points, winning 13-3. Nathan Stanley looked great at times, looked scattershot at times. Would love to see this kid develop his overall game and his timing and his accuracy, because he's got the arm, he's got the size and the mobility to be really good. But Nathan Stanley a bit too inconsistent, but Iowa too much for Iowa State, 13-3 today. West Virginia, Central Florida, Miami, they win non-consequential scrimmage games. We talked about Texas A&M and Clemson. If you guys have any more comments or, again, would like to call in, it's 860-325-3687. LSU wins big. Auburn wins big. All right, we got Kentucky and Florida. Does somebody have a score for me? Last I saw, 3rd quarter, Kentucky had hit a long pass from Wilson to Bowden to go up 21-10 at the Swamp. 21-10 Kentucky. This would be, of course, key in the SEC Eastern Division, but also historic, as Kentucky is suffering from the longest losing streak in the FBS right now to one team, 31 straight to the Gators, going back to 1986. Pitt, Penn State, we talked about it. Penn State not looking great, but dominating the second half, winning a sloppy game in which Pitt's turning the ball over left and right after statistically dominating the game in the first half. Penn State out to a 37-6 lead. So the Nittany Lions dispelling to a certain extent the alarmists out there after the App State game, in which the Mountaineers took them to overtime. USC at Stanford. Last I saw that score, the USC offense still stuck in mud, could not score in the first half, trailing Stanford going into the second half at 14-0. I'll take in the rest of that game. We've got Boise in play later tonight. They probably kicked off by now against UConn. And again, the game I want to take in here is Michigan State, to see if Arizona State can pull off an upset after they played really well against Texas San Antonio. Michigan State sluggish out of the gate against Utah State at home. Have to travel all the way to the desert. Michigan State, Arizona State. My pick was the Spartans to win, but the Sun Devils to keep it close enough, plus the 6. 860-325-3687. If you guys want to call in and have anything to throw at me. Stanford up 17-3, NCIS Fanatic 21. We appreciate the scores. Boise up 24-0. All right. The streak will end at 9 seconds left. Florida has the ball on their own 25. Kentucky at 21-16. Where's our boy George, who picked Florida to go to the SEC championship game and win the national championship? So I love the trash talking. Always love the trash talking. It's part of college football. As long as you're not personal and it's not offensive, and we can all draw the line where that should be. The reason I bring that up is because if we're trash talking, but we're doing it in good fun, then we should be able to come back after our team loses and still face the live chat. Should we not? All right. Appreciate you guys jumping on board. Unless there's something else you'd like for me to address, I'm going to take in USC Stanford on DVR, but live Michigan State, Arizona State. I've got a number of game notes that I'm going to compile and provide some recaps of today's action. And then, of course, tomorrow, my top 25. The top 25 that makes sense. Please subscribe to my newsletter, The Voice of College Football. It comes out on Monday. It drew rave reviews from those folks that received it, about 58 people on the mailing list thus far. So, again, if you want just a ton of college football information, my take and perspective, plus facts, trends, stats that you won't find anywhere else, please subscribe. I'll get that out to you each and every Monday. Just send your email address to MarkRogersTV at Gmail, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. And again, you guys do me so much help and support in liking, commenting, and subscribing. And I know that the subscriptions can be an annoyance if you've got your notifications on. So I would shut off the notifications. The subscriptions help a ton. So thanks so much. We're trying to build out a platform that is unlike anywhere else in college football. We think right now that we do it from the standpoint of discussion, debate, analysis, bringing on quality guests, engaging you guys, and talking up college football for the smart fan. That's you. But we want to do it much better, and we'll have those resources as we go forward with your help and support. So you guys know who you are, who support us, and I appreciate it. I also love the discussion and debate. So if you've caught me on anything that I've said that's not correct or illogical or needs to be challenged, I invite that. Please do that. I'm going to collect some of the best comments from the last week or two or three, and in the next few days, do some viewer mail, respond to comments. All right, MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. We will see you very soon. I doubt if I'm going to be on again tonight, but you never know me. If I've got something to say about Michigan State, Arizona State, or if something crazy happens late in the Stanford USC game, maybe I'll jump back on. So we appreciate it. Tell your family and friends we're here if they love college football, if they even mildly like college football and they get into the season. Let them know that we are right here. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook as well, right at MarkRogersTV. And of course, YouTube's the main platform for all the live streams and all the content right here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. And we will see you next time. Keep in mind that the call-in number is available every time we jump on the live stream, and we will do that in the coming days and throughout next week as we preview week 3. If you have any suggestions, if you have any guests that you would like to see here, if we're not supplying enough of your favorite team or a certain analysis and there are any writers or guests, commentators broadcasters out there that you would like to see right here at Mark Rogers TV, then let me know who they are, and I will go after them to bring them on here. You guys have a great night. I appreciate the support. Enjoy the rest of the college football. And if you love the NFL, that as well. See you soon.